Hello and welcome to our Facebook channel. My name is Julia Rafajovic and I am the director of the Sofia Literature and Translation House. We are here today with writers Boyan Babich from Serbia and Petър Денчев from Bulgaria to talk about the Balkan literary scene, the incredible political and events taking place in Serbia today, the role of literature and authors and art in great political movements as this. We will, of course, talk also about Babich's work as well, an author of novels, poetry, and he has a children's book in the works, as I understand it. He is currently a resident at the Sofia Literature and Translation House to work on his latest novel. The residency is kindly supported by the Traduki Network. I've asked Bulgarian writer Petър Денчев to lead this discussion, and I'm very thankful that he accepted. Petъr is a leading voice in Bulgarian contemporary literature and theater. He's a very renowned playwright and director and novelist and poet. I give now the floor to him, and then I would like to also invite viewers to leave comments in the comment section, leave your questions in the comment section below the video, and I'll be sure to pass them on to Petъr as the discussion unfolds. It's very likely that the questions will be asked at the end, but it's a good idea to ask them while we're talking so we don't wait and have a big lag. Thank you very much and enjoy. And Petъr, you're up.
Thank you, Julia. First of all, I want to introduce Boyan Babich to our audience, since he is not translated into Bulgarian, as I know, but I think that that could be changed in the future. So Boyan Babich was born in Belgrade in 1977, where he graduated at the Faculty of Philology at the Belgrade University. And he writes poetry, short stories. He's author of several novels. He has been awarded the Borislav Pekic Foundation Prize for Literature. He also participated in a few residential programs for writers in the Balkans. He's been shortlisted for the so-called NIN Award for the NIN magazine in Serbia and some other prizes. His short stories have been published in English, Swedish, Albanian, Icelandic, German. Some of his most important books are Girls Be Good, as I translated it well, The Illegal Parnas, Stories About Happiness, that's called in Serbian Priče o sreći, Stories About Happiness, How to Eat Pomegranate, and so on. So he is a very unique talent because he's jumping from one genre to another genre, very open-minded into talking about his work. So welcome to Sofia, Boyan.
Thank you, thank you.
You've already spent some time in the city. How do you feel about it, since it's not your first time in Sofia?
No, I have first welcome everybody to this stream, and I'm glad to be here with all of you. I've visited Sofia a few times before, but I have never spent this much time in the city. More or less, I'm spending time in the house, trying to write. And the city, each time I go out, grows on me slowly. So I think that it will stay. And of course, the influence of the city in the literature is always there. Wherever I go, it influences what I write. But it usually happens a posteriori. So in a few years, Sofia will be somewhere in my prose or poetry.
Yes, somehow, sometimes the topos, not the concrete places, are going into the writing. And since you sent me some of your works, I'm very keen to ask you what are you working on lately. And so as you open that topic, I can't help but ask, how do you feel whether the city is helping you with your writing or not? You said that you're trying to develop one short story into a novel, and as I remember, it's called "What I Am Looking For Is Always on the Bottom," or
Yes.
something like
Yes.
this. Yes. So how does it work to be in a big city like Sofia? Because Belgrade and Sofia are very similar in population and also in in the way how the life is organized.
I think that currently life is way better organized here in Sofia than in Belgrade due to different reasons. But I tend to write at one point in my life, I actually decided that if I am going to be a writer, if I'm going to write anything, I cannot choose the circumstances of the writing and wait for some kind of circumstances to come. So I write whenever and wherever I find space and time, and then it's good not for what I'm writing currently, but I think that it is great that I find the time here and the space to allow the city and the people and the country, culture actually, to influence me without me knowing it. And I think that is the best kind of influence. And at one point it will come as an obvious influence in what I write. But now I am working on two things actually. I'm trying to finish one novel that is quite complicated and is something happening in school, in primary school in Serbia. It's kind of a phantasmagoric story. And the other one is this, what you have told about. It's actually a short story about how it is to be pregnant in Serbia and to have a child. And it is not only about this situation in social context, but primarily about the clash of this situation. How do woman actually feels it intimately, and the clash of this intimate story with the social story of how is it actually in reality, what is happening to her as a woman and potential mother. And this is the position where I have heard from many women where they feel a special kind of it's like the special emotional situation. And it always interests me when people find themselves in some kind of special emotional situation. Is it like the childhood? Is it the old age? Is it being in special physical situations? So, and how it actually relates to social reality. And this clash can always be interesting in literal sense.
Yeah, so you treat somehow traumatic issues, which are somehow connected to those transitional social and political circumstances in the Balkans, in the region. So how you do this interchange, how you focus more on the intimate side of your characters, but you tell a lot about the social situation. It is very unique way of writing. Could you expand on this intimate world so more, because it's really interesting for me.
Because I believe that it is always a question: do we make our decisions about our lives? Do we make them ourselves, or are they socially determined? and it's always one and another. But somehow, at some people, at some literary heroes of mine, from the novel Illegal Parnassus through the novel How to Eat Pomegranate and later on, those literary heroes, the people I write about, actually it's always this clash between them, person who is weak in a way, and the social context which is strong. And then weak person has some kind of great ambitions or wishes, and then it clashes to this social context which is way stronger than they're supposed to. And then the person, always in my literature, not always, but usually, gets into some kind of delusional state. And I love how they manage to. I love to get into that mind of a delusional person. Maybe it's my perversion, personal, and to see something that is not there, even though the society around and reality around is totally different. They still go on with their illusions. And at one point, sooner or later, and usually later in my literature, they have to hit with their heads into the wall of the society and see that their life is not real, actually. And then it's this moment of that clash is really interesting for me. It usually does create an high emotional impact at certain points in my literature. It's not something I say, it's something others say about it. So there is, I think that there is high emotional impact, because I hear a lot of times that even though some books are written as have some kind of humor in them or irony, or the people at the end, they told me that sometimes they cry, and this is because they find the part of them, of their own delusion there. I find parts of my own delusion there too.
So yeah, it's a very important topic, the delusions in art and in the society and in the social life. So I can't help but ask you, what is, in this context, what is it like to be a writer in Serbia today in that way? So, and how far it is possible to go as a writer in Serbia today in this context?
I mean, as a writer anywhere, I believe that's why we write. You can go as far as your own possibilities let you. There is a library always, and there is always at least pen and paper, and you can create the world. But the point is how strong impact can this world create in the society you live in? And that's where we come to, for example, Serbian society. Even though each society you can randomly pick today is quite interesting, in a quite interesting moment, but Serbian probably is has some kind of differentia specifica compared to other societies in this moment. And I believe that as a writer, I don't know, but it's possible to go far. It's impossible to become what big authors have been in previous decades in ex-Yugoslavia, for example, like big names, Danilo Kiš, Borislav Pekic, you mentioned him, and so on. We don't have these great figures now, and I mean, I question if those great figures were great back then. It's always, again, you need a few decades later. But now we have a specific moment in Serbian society, which is totally, I would say, political. And what's going on in Serbia is actually influencing each and every aspect of life, and of course each and every aspect of art too. And we can talk about it now.
Yeah, a lot is happening now in Serbia,
Mhm.
and the
Yeah.
political situation is very tense. As I I suppose that as you were young, you saw the Otpor movement in the anti-Milosevic protests. So what they have in common now, and what is the difference? Can you make a comparison between
Mhm.
these?
I mean, if
Because
there,
as we talked earlier today with you, um we mentioned some people that our colleague writer Mirjana Đurđević, who are telling, I never believed that I'll be crossing the streets of Belgrade protesting for more than 40 years.
Mhm. Yeah, for if there is anybody who listens to this and doesn't know the context, I'll make just a short intro about what's going on. This new students movement has grown from the protests, and protests started after the fall of canopy of the newly built railway station in Novi Sad. It was the pride of the government because they have created this fast train between Belgrade and Novi Sad, and this station was newly renovated actually. And just a month after the opening, this huge canopy fell and killed 16 people. And even we had such a big tragedies in previous years. This one is, and people reacted to those previous tragedies. This one was instantly connected to the corruption and kind of directly connected to the people in government. And somehow people saw and felt that nobody is going to be actually addressed as somebody who is responsible for that. So actually none of those main people from the government were prosecuted, and nobody's guilty. And people lost their lives, and that's where this movement came from, and this protest came from. And the main goal of the protest, at the beginning it was, and for 8 months already, it was student protests. Students led the protest and citizens joined. And the main goal was to find who is actually guilty who is responsible for the death of 16 people. And to get to this, the point was to get to this chain of corruption, we would, of course, get to the highest people in the government. Now, because for 8 months, a lot of things happened during the protests. Protests happened daily. Some of them were the biggest protests in the history of Serbia. For example, on 15th March, there was about 300,000 people. Some say to 500,000 of people in Belgrade, which is, and I was there. Personally, I never saw the bigger crowd, even though I participated in some previous protests. And that's something that shows actually now they're looking for elections. And all those protests, actually, what I wanted to say is that this shows that there are two traditions in our society. One is the tradition of autocracy, and another one is tradition of democracy, of actually need for democracy, which is authentic. Or I would say rather need for political freedoms. Against autocracy. We had protests in previous century many times. We can start from the 41st against this deal with Nazi Germany, then 68, which was really huge in Yugoslavia, then 96, which I was part of. I've been a freshman against Milosevic when he actually stole local elections. And then 2000, 5th of October 2000, when he fell down. I've been there too. So there is always a protest, and that shows this huge part of our society is actually has this need for freedom. it doesn't necessarily mean that they tend towards democracy, parliamentary democracy as we know it, because it's democracy became important, that this is what those protests have already done. This is a good thing that already happened here, because in some statistics shown that Serbian society was the society that least wanted a democratic system as in Europe, and they wanted a strong man as a leader. And now, 5 years later from that, it shows that people believe that democracy is the best way to rule one country. But is this democracy a classical parliamentary democracy? I wouldn't say that, because people have lost the faith in political parties in a way, and they don't really believe either ruling parties or opposition parties, because they all see it as some kind of political class that is privileged. And they always want this some kind of ground movement to be somebody who will change things.
Yeah, it looks like the students are the main force that was also in the 90s. But as I remember, if I remember well, after the elections, after the Milosevic fell, Otpor transformed into political party, and they failed at the elections.
Yeah, I mean, what's gonna happen? I have some concerns, of course, even though I'm from time to time I'm on the streets with the protesters. I do have a few concerns. One is that in a way it is it's not killing, but it's undermining some kind of pluralism, because now we have this trying to create compromises with because they want to create a huge movement that is not only students' movement but whole national movement.
Yeah.
And they are actually compromising with right-wing groups who, once embraced, tend to have tendency to consume you. That is the danger. And there is not kind of political dialogue inside the protest, inside the movement, because there is always this talk. It's not time for details now. Now is the crucial time where we have the fight between good and evil. And later on, because now this government, and this is true, has actually killed any platform for political dialogue. Medias are closed, parliament is not functioning, and that's the point. Now we want to, students say we want to get them off the stage, and we want to get back those platforms for political dialogue, and then we will talk about political details. But actually, as the time goes, as much as I remember, and my remembers is almost historical, is that we have always been in those kinds of acute situations, and we never found the time for details, and that's where the devil hides, you know.
Yeah, in the details.
But anyhow, I think it's really important that that everybody supports this movement, and yeah, we'll talk about the details later. What's going to happen afterwards, nobody actually knows.
Yeah, it is very interesting, and so it looks like that the writers, the artists are also supporting the protests.
Mhm.
So all from what I could call the Serbian literary scene. So all the people that my friends are there. You said that you are protesting from time to time. So how this impacts the literary life in Serbia? For more than 8 months, that's a long time.
Well, it consumes not only literary life, but life itself, like every aspect of it. And even though literary life is actually existing. You know, there were a few institutions, cultural institutions, that are now occupied by students, as they call it, like Students' Cultural Center or Cultural Center in Belgrade, and they do organize different events and dialogues, which might be interesting for somebody. But I would say that literary life is not in the first row.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I agree that many are, almost all artists that can be considered as fruitful and serious and valuable are either are active one way or another in the protests. Of course, ruling party can always find new loyal to themselves, whoever they can imagine, new writers and new actors, and they're of the questionable quality, but never mind, they don't mind it. I think that everything is a bit on hold, I would say. So even a literary life in this classical sense.
Yeah, so at the last years, I remember that there were some writers that were produced, and they also produced books that were called by my colleagues regime authors of the regime of the Vucic. So, are they involved now? Are they making some counter statements, counter protests, or something like this? Are they involved in that war?
There are less and less of them who are loud, but it's interesting that there is that they have organized some kind of anti-protest in the center of the Belgrade, and they have this place where they are situated in front of the presidency. And during the biggest protest in Belgrade lately, they have actually organized, not anti-protest, but they have organized a literary evening.
A literary evening. For the regime.
For the regime, yeah.
For the government.
But it's always, you know, some kind of fake national historical subjects, talking about how Serbs didn't their value was not recognized through history, and now we will do it. And they always go back to the same subjects, which is not the problem, which may be interesting subjects, but they're not doing it in a valuable way. Interesting there is, for example, the movies, because to make a movie you need to actually be funded from the government usually, and it's interesting to follow who is getting that fundings.
Yeah, so.
But in the context of the protests, I say that art is there to just help students. It's not like, of course, we all write books, we publish books. It's not that it doesn't exist. We promote books, but in each of the book promotion, in each of the literary gathering, the protests are always the first subject we talk about. We first talk about protests, and later on, if there is time, we talk about books, as it is now between the two of us.
Yeah. So so maybe there is no place for nostalgia in the protest, as we are looking back for the 90s, but literature cannot survive without nostalgia. And you in ex-Yugoslavia, you have a specific attitude towards nostalgia. You have your own specific federal concept of nostalgia, the Yugo nostalgia. Once one friend of mine who is a psychologist told me that nostalgia is a memory minus the trauma. So this is
yeah.
So this is late the best concept about nostalgia that have been told lately. Do you agree on this? And could you expand more on how nostalgia is perceived in ex-Yugoslavia, also in Serbia, since we in Bulgaria also have authors like Gospodinov who are writing a lot about this topic because somehow we are now at the end of the first quarter of the new century. So there's enough time that have passed from the last 100 years of history, and somehow this longing for something that we've lost is still there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I do think about it and write about it sometimes. And I believe that it is both, nostalgia is both seductive and dangerous. And I like actually the way how Georgi Gospodinov wrote about it in Time Shelter. And it can be really specifically developed for Yugoslavian space. And yes, as you told, we have a special word for it, Yugo nostalgia. And it is alive. You know that at the census, for example, in 2010, in Serbia, there was 4,000 Yugoslavs as nationals. And 10 years later, there was 27,000 Yugoslavs. So like 30 years after the vanishing of the country, there are more and more people feeling as they are part of it. So it lives, especially in Serbia. I would say it lives in Bosnia and Macedonia too, quite well. Yeah. There is some in Slovenia on different from different sides, and even in Croatia, even though it's really sensitive subject in Croatia, in front of some people you can say even it's a forbidden word, Yugoslavia. But and in Kosovo there is some nostalgia, but because many people in Serbia, for example, believe that everything that came after the fall of Yugoslavia did not bring any added value to their lives. That if you compare those small states that appeared afterwards to the state of Yugoslavia, that it's nothing, uncomparable. But I believe that actually what they are missing, what they are imagining, is some of the possibilities that big country has offered them without really, not the reality actually of it, as you told, without the trauma. Mm-hmm. And yes, I would. I mean, I believe that this is the country that had its own. It was autocracy in a way. It had some kind of. It did have some social righteousness into it, but it did have repression too. And I always believed that it was worth of preserving. Actually, not preserving, but it was worth working on, as I believe that the same thing for the European Union now. It's worth working on and not falling apart. So this is really. It's interesting, really subject for me and personal, because I still, even decades later, sometimes catch myself wondering how would I live if it would stay as one country? Where would I be? Where would my child be? And so on. But it's just that's what nostalgia is, and it's interesting as a literary subject. But we have to be careful when we dive into that ocean.
Yeah, once Slavoj Žižek said that if the European Union doesn't want to fall apart, it has to study the history of Yugoslavia.
Yeah, but I wanted to say one more thing. It's not Yugoslavia, and there is another term called post-Yugoslavia, and that actually shows that it's not only about nostalgia, that there is something that is authentic contemporary need for the common cultural space. We are talking more or less using more or less the same language with 4 names, except in Slovenia and Macedonia and Kosovo, and there is a need, for example, if we are looking at the new generations, they have their pop culture icons that are common. They don't even know they know for Yugoslavia, but they cannot even recognize the flag of Yugoslavia, for example, if you show them. But they have common pop stars, TikTok stars, influencers. They're all called Balkan influencers or so on, but nobody calls themselves like Serbian, Croatian, and so on, because the market actually has the need for it, and it usually shows in pop culture, and even in culture, in literature, we do have need for common space. I go to Sarajevo, Zagreb, Podgorica, and it is kind of natural. The writers and artists want to cooperate and to see it as one cultural space. But I would say that the national elites, the governments actually have the opposite tendency. In a way, they create administrative borders and to try to keep the cultures from themselves, because they usually want Serbian culture, it's Croatian, and we don't want to communicate like it is one space. So it's quite hard to actually export books to Croatia, to sell them from Serbia. They're really administrative, some kind of problems there, and there is no will amongst the governments to resolve that.
Yeah, so because the elites are somehow engaged in building that new national culture, even though the Serbian culture was always part of the Yugoslavian culture long before the World War II, since Yugoslavia was existing at that time, and it's the same for Croatia and Slovenia. Even if we go further, not further, if we go a lot back in time when there was the kingdom of the Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes.
So
that shared space, cultural space, was somehow there, and it's, at my thinking, it's more of a pop culture phenomenon now. Somehow it's there is something shared, and also I think that even though Bulgaria wasn't part of Yugoslavia, there is a lot to think about a common cultural space, since you have a language continuity from Trieste, from Trest to Varna. So if you go from Trest to Varna, you say the same words for bread and milk, which is a good beginning for cultural cooperation.
Yeah, and I would say that it was one space. For a while it wasn't. It's still it's going to be the same cultural space. I'm not going to go into that, how to name it, because I will let anybody name it as they want. But the reality is that it is one space, and it's the same with the language, with this 4 named language: Serbian, Croatian, Bosnian, and Montenegrin. there was even this kind of movement from this organization Crocodile. They have organized this petition that I signed, actually, that we call it with the linguists and the scientists and the writers, that we say that we believe that this is one language that is not centralized, that has four names, but it is one language, and we didn't want to give it a name. It's just like a symbolic petition to say that we're not crazy. We see that it is one language, and we don't want to talk that it's not. And this was an interesting moment, like, I don't know, 5 or even 10 years ago. It did have some impact, but since then there's not much talk about it to some kind of, in a way, formalize this as one language with 4 names. I don't even want to go into that, which name it is. When I was born, it was called Serbo-Croatian. Now, usually people in diaspora from Serbia, Croatia, Bosnia, they call it naš, our language.
Yes, yeah.
And maybe that is the name that will stay.
Yeah. So somehow the ex-Yugoslavian countries had a big misfortune with the wars, with all these political transitions. And somehow you, as a writer, also focus, you're attracted by the misfortune as of some of your characters. This is a very specific type of thinking. Why do you choose this unusual position? Why do you unfold the perspective from the category of misfortune to bring you back into the writing?
Well, it's a hard question for me, and maybe I don't see it as that unusual. It's just a matter of where I grew up, I guess, and the people I saw around me and people I communicated with. And more or less, this is what I saw. During the 90s, as I grew up in those sensitive years for me personally and then societally, and later on too, I saw a lot of people that are ruined, maybe not by their own fault. I mean, I'm not talking about fault in my books. I'm trying not to.
Yeah.
Because you need to show some kind of understanding and love even to those people, I mean, fictional people that you write about. And this is something that actually, this showing the my weak characters in literature. Somebody actually asked me for the novel that's called How to Eat Pomegranate. It's about a woman is a main character, and it's this relation between people who are materially poor and have some cultural needs, and how do they relate to the culture itself and art. Poverty and art is actually the subject. And somebody asked me, like, yes, you are presenting here a woman, but you're giving us a weak character, not a strong woman as a character. But it's not only in that book, even in the book Illegal Parnassus, and in this book that I'm writing now, my characters are usually weak as a life characters, and that's what I find inspiring. I believe that weak character that would be weak in life is actually a strong literary character, and a very interesting literary character. And that's why I want to give those characters space, and I want to give them a name in my books. So they can be seen and heard and understood, hopefully.
Yeah. As as I understand your position, still I'm asking myself, is there a self-censorship about these things in Serbia or in the literary life? Because somehow it's a very sensitive, and it's socially connected to talk about people in misfortune.
Mhm.
But as I know Mirjana Đurđević, once she was she was member of the jury of the Meša Selimović Prize, which for our audience is a literary award, which is annually presented for the best novel
In the
published
whole region, yeah.
in Bosnian and Croatian, in Montenegrin and in Serbian language. So she told me it was maybe in 2018, and she told me I was terrified how much horror is there around us. How much she was horrified about how dark the region looks through the lens of literature. Is there any kind of self-censorship about these things now in Serbia, or it's just very personal to talk, subjective, I mean, not personal?
I don't see any kind of censorship, at least not formal censorship, but the best censorship is the one you don't recognize. So maybe there is. I don't see it. But maybe not censorship in the sense that you cannot write about it or you cannot publish. But I see that it's quite hard to get those stories to surface, to make it kind of mainstream, to make it influential, to push it in the media, for the readers who are not either professional readers, professionally connected to books and art, or really dedicated readers, to the wider audience. It's quite hard to actually push it to become something, and that's where those literary prizes may be important, but I don't think it works really quite well. We see now new kind of literature that is not like that, in a way. That is maybe because this new generation of authors have appeared. We've been writing about war, about 90s for a few decades, trying to give some to give literary meaning to some experiences. But there is now this new generation, I would say. I don't like to name the generations like millennials or Gen Z or anything, but born in the late 90s or maybe in 2000s, that write kind of that have some kind of different subject and different kind of approach. They write usually poetry, and they have created some kind of new scene, which is, I would say, great, and I've been guest to a few of those events, and they usually write about themselves, which is good, about personal questions of identity, wandering through identities, relations among each other. Coming of age novels appear, which is relatively new in our literature, I would say, and it gives some kind of fresh air, because they're all interesting characters too. But there is something interesting, I would say, about young people in literature in our society, maybe even societies, but I can speak for Serbia, because I've been watching now from generation to generation new interesting authors appear, and it's always new topics, brave approach, new perspective, and you notice it and you want to follow those authors, like what's new gonna happen. But as they grow older, they get into a certain age where they have to, I would say, get out of their parents' houses or get out of student dorms and get into this atrociousness of job market, they kind of disappear. And I would say that until the middle age, when they're middle-aged, 5% of them still writes, I would say. And this is when they come to the age where they would give like they would be most fruitful, maybe, I don't know. So this is the problem of our societies, and that proves that there is no great literature in small societies without the state, without the support from the state, not only from the funding, but through the institutions, through organizations, through legislation, even and the possibilities to create and to write and to present your work nationally and internationally. And this almost is inexisting in our society now and for a while.
Yeah, so there is an infrastructure that is needed. So not only support for the publishing houses, not only for the libraries, for the festivals, but also for the translators, for the literary magazines. That we need.
Because that is the situation in which you don't, on the long term, you don't have professional writers, for example. They're all, we are all more or less amateurs in one way or another.
Yeah, so if you don't have another job where your cash flow comes, so you're just non-existing.
And again, this clash between our delusion and reality.
This is it sounds banal, but it's real. Because somehow no one would like to talk about it, but it's reality. So we cannot escape it, and it is needed somehow to publicly talk about what is to be a writer in our societies, because in Bulgaria there is now more or less there is a new way of thinking, because somehow generations changed. But years ago, 20 years ago, to say that someone is writer or is trying to write, it was just like that idea of someone that is closed outside of the world, escaped from the world, and is just writing his own things.
I say that people like see art or writing as some kind of accepted vice. It's like smoking, you know. You do it, but if you can't.
Do it, but we wouldn't support you.
Try not to get the secondary smoke to us, you
know. Okay, so I think that maybe we are at the end of our conversation. So if in that terms the art or the art of writing is not so important for the society, can it be an alternative, or does it have to be part of the alternative? So because
in a way, even though I don't want to overestimate the possibilities that literature actually gives, but I think that, for example, in this moment in Serbia, it is in the society, it's quite important who leads the narrative, actually, who is the one that is creating the collective story. Whose language do we use? Do we use the language of those that are dark or those that are gray, not to say white. And
the bright ones.
Yeah, the black ones or the white ones. I believe that this is where literature can jump in, actually, and can try to create those new collective stories, not in a sense that we are going to be, again, some kind of social workers as writers. But we can kind of set the tone and even move the boundaries of the braving of being. What does it mean to be brave in a society? And we can. What is the most maybe important goal for me is to give a name to what is contemporary collective emotion. To try to name it through my work, and this is what I'm actually trying to do with my writing.
Yeah, so it is very important that we shape the contemporaneity with our writing. So
to recognize it and to name it. And the one who actually sets, I was looking through some kind of, I was talking about democracy and about those pollings, what people think. I don't really believe those polls, but because I saw a lot of them personally, but because people give the answers that they believe are actually the wanted answers. Poželjni odgovori, mi to zovemo. Yeah, somebody who says, and it's interesting that this is the turn that happened. Now we are the ones giving those wished answers, actually. So yeah, maybe literature has some. Let's be positive about it. Has some role in that change.
Yeah, I think that's a very good ending of our conversation. Thank you very much, Boyan.
Thank you.
And I hope that soon we'll read your new novel, which you're writing. And I wish that we could see your work translated into Bulgarian soon.
That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.